hideous to read. Thank you to this book for existing. I love you. I wasn't quite prepared for that. Why do all the men in this book roar when they climax? I'd be scared. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Pip, and today we are going to be reading 5 romance novels that, in my opinion, are super hyped. I've never read from any of these authors before, so this is kind of like an experiment for me, and I'm just very intrigued to see if I'm gonna love them like everybody else seems to. I can't wait for this. I think this is gonna be very interesting. So we are gonna be starting with Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. Indeed, let us begin with probably the most hyped author of them all. For context, I have not read The Love Hypothesis. There's something about the fake dating trope at the moment that I'm just like, not interested in. I really don't want to pick it up, and I never have. This follows a woman called B who works in STEM. I think she's a neuroscientist, but I believe that she works in a lab and she's reunited with someone from her past, and it's enemies to lovers. Honestly, that's all I need to know. Contemporary romance, enemies to lovers. Yes, please. I am going to start reading right now, and I will update you with my thoughts. Let's see if it's any good. I have only just started this, but I already have an observation. And to be honest, I actually think I'm really gonna like this. I think this is gonna be very fun, but why does the narrator sound like a cheesy rom-com voiceover? Like, Levi Ward despised me. Me. I had no choice but to hate him back. And it's like, it's so cheesy. Like, you don't know anything about this man. It's fine. Like I said, I think I'm actually gonna like this, but there's something about the voice that's like a little bit grating. I'm gonna update you with more soon. Okay. Okay, so I did not mean to finish this in like one sitting. I can't believe how quickly I read this. I just didn't mean to do that. So the things I liked about this, I generally just really enjoyed Levi as a hero. I think he is a stellar example of what an enemies to lovers hero should kind of look like. For me, he just worked perfectly. He was perfect. I just think he's perfect. That's all I have to say. I did warm up to B throughout the book, and I definitely felt invested in her and her story, but I just didn't quite like fall in love with her. And there was so many phrases that were kind of used again and again and again. There was a lot of repetition that I couldn't help but notice, and it just wound me up a little bit. I think the steam is good. Do I think it's better than The Spanish Love Deception? No. No. There also just wasn't that much steam. I was kind of expecting a bit more, to be completely honest. Another small problem I had with it is that it's just so predictable. Like, you can see the author putting everything in place in the first like 50 pages, and it's just like, well, I can clearly see that this is going to happen and then this is going to happen, and it makes it less satisfying when it does happen. There is a degree of satisfaction anyway because she executes it well, but it's just predictable to a point where it's like, you've made this quite obvious. It also definitely just needs to be pointed out that I could not put this down. And when I wasn't reading it, I was thinking about it. I was so invested. I think the pacing was great. There's something about this that is so addictive. And I think that that is quite hard to find for me. Also, one more thing before I give my rating. I cannot deal with how often she talks about the size of Levi's hands and her own hands. The way that she even just described like, oh, I picked this object up with my small hands. And it's like, I don't care how big your hands are. There's gotta be a point where we say enough hand chat. I just had to say it. There's this constant need to point out how massive he is and what a mountain he is. And it just like reaches a point where it's like, a little bit annoying. But overall, I'm gonna say that I was definitely not disappointed by this book. I think it was really fun. It's a testament that I could not put it down, and I read it basically in one sitting. That doesn't happen to me. I was really invested in it. I did really enjoy the main romance. Didn't really care for any of the side characters. Did find it super predictable. So I think overall I'm gonna give it like a 3.5. I really do recommend this. I think it's super fun, but it's just not a favourite for me. So overall, good start. A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. We've all heard of this one. For context, I have read the original Court of Thorns and Roses trilogy by Sarah J. Maas. I think I read it like 2 years ago. I really liked ACOMAF. I think A Court of Mist and Fury is a really good, well executed fantasy romance. I want to get that out of the way before I say anything. Were my hopes very high for this book? Not really. I've heard very mixed things. I think if you listen very closely, you will hear dozens of people click unsubscribe as I say this. I'm gonna apologize in advance, but I'm 60% of the way through A Court of Silver Flames, and I'm not gonna lie, I just don't really like it. I don't hate it, I also don't love it, and I have a very deep contempt for the subplot involving Feyre and Rhys. Hideous to read. So I'm not gonna spoil this book, but I will say I do think that Rhys's behaviour is like unacceptable. I think it's a bit of a character assassination, if I'm being brutally honest. Any affection that I had for that character is completely dead. I think he's gross. Any appearance that he has in this book, I genuinely don't like him. Like, I think he comes across so badly. I know that a lot of people share that view, so I feel safe saying it, but at the same time, I think it will also upset people. You can look up reviews of the book if you're curious to know what I'm talking about and you have no interest in reading this. Go and look it up. It's so bad. That aside, to actually discuss Nesta and Cassian, I think the romance is well done to an extent. It's so sparse and far between in this massive fantasy novel that like I'm just like not really getting the reward that I want from a romance novel. I think the slow burn is really good. I think their relationship is really believable. And like I get it and I love Cassian. I think he's a great character. I don't know what it is. It might be the fantasy setting. I don't know if I'm a fantasy romance girly anymore. It's a big shame, but I think I'm just learning my preferences when it comes to romances, fantasy, or like heavy fantasy within romances, or actually just like any book. I think I struggle with it now. I just don't know if it's 100% for me. We're learning. This is good. We like to learn about ourselves. I also just want to say something else. Some of the writing is so annoying. Like when Rhys enters a room and says any line, and it's like, he says his line, and it's like, Rhys said, night swirling from his fingertips. And it's like, what? What's that? And like the amount of times Amren's role solely is to say something condescending and then add girl or boy onto the end of it. If you drank a shot every time Amren says girl or boy on the end of her line, with respect, you'd be dead. Also, if you take a shot anytime anybody says like calls to like, you're gone. It was cool the first time people said it, and then it got really boring really fast. I do think the writing is somewhat repetitive and definitely needed a bit more editing. I think it's too long, if I'm being brutally honest. What good things do I have to say? I know there's a lot of criticisms. It was quite compulsively readable, because the slow burn romance is really good and quite well executed, I think. But now I'm sort of over it. I will finish it, but like, I think the sad reality is like, I just don't really care much about these characters anymore. This subplot is like killed them for me. Like, I have such contempt for the way that has all been done. And like, you can make excuses for it or whatever, but I really don't like it. That's my thoughts so far. So far it's feeling like a 2.5 out of 5. Sorry if you love this book, I have to say. I think the romance part is quite good, but there's not enough of it for me, and I'm not finding it to be much fun. Very, very sorry. Hello, I'm actually coming to you much later than that last clip. This is actually one of the last clips I'm filming for this video. Guess who took a tumble and gave themselves concussion and also maimed their own face and cut their own chin open? It was me. I did it. I had one of the worst Decembers I've ever had. It was a bad time. Let's not go there. So it has been like a month since I started Court of Silver Flames. Not ideal. I also, just like I said, kind of wanted a break from this book. I wanted to read something else. You're actually about to see me read a couple of books pre-Chincident, pre-concussion, but I did finish A Court of Silver Flames. I can report I finished it, and my final rating for it is going to be 3 stars. It did actually improve, which I'm really glad to say. So basically, everything I loved about this book, love is a strong word, let's say like, everything I liked about this book really revolved around Nesta's friendship with Gwyn and Emery? Extra star for Gwyn. I love her, she deserves the best, she's pure serotonin, such a well-crafted and well-written character. thank you. I really like Nesta's development and seeing her friendship grow with these women and how they kind of form this really beautiful connection and this beautiful bond. It's really nice to see. I thought it was well done. When it comes to the other stuff, I struggled more. Let's talk about the romance. I really like Cassian. He's a really good hero. I get it. He's hot. He's sensitive. He's got wings. Nesta, as a character, I think this is where the root of my problem with the romance really lies, is like, I just really struggled to love Nesta. Nesta is the kind of character that I really want to love, and I really appreciate the growth that she went through in this book. I thought a lot of it was really well done, and I believed it, and by the end, I could really appreciate where her character got to. But I just really struggle with characters like Nesta. There's like some deep part of me that whenever I'm faced with a character who like says things out of spite and says things with the intention of hurting people, I just like can't get on board with them in a really real way. It's a thing about me. I know that she's had a hard time. I get it. I know. Still, I'm sorry. I see a lot of 1-star and 5-star reviews for this book, and I'm sitting in the middle with a 3, which is great because it means I've probably pissed off everybody. So that's good. Okay, if we're going to talk about this theme, can we quickly talk about why do all the men in this book roar when they climax? Like, it's genuinely frightening and unnecessary. I'd be scared. Why is it always roaring? So much roaring. Stop it. So like I said, it's 3 stars. I liked it. I didn't love it. I'm deeply sorry if you really, really love this book. They're just my honest thoughts. Not a patch on Akamath, may I say. Akasuf, not quite on the same level. Oh, also I have one more. Take a shot every time Nesta's eyes are described as silver flames or silver fire. You'll die. That's that one. On to the next. You made a fall of death with your beauty? Very good. I'm officially 48% of the way through, and it is just wow. I think this book is a little bit different than all the other books on this list. We don't have like your classic kind of romance tropes. It's much more just about a woman. We follow a woman called Faye who lost her husband 5 years previously in a car accident. So we're following her as she's kind of just starting to date again, and she is basically dealing with wanting what she can't have. She's grappling with the idea of falling in love again and trusting again and all of the emotions that come with all of those things. And she is an artist, and oh my gosh, it's just so fucking good. We also have her best friend, Joy, and their friendship is sort of at the very centre of this book. It kind of grounds everything. I think their friendship is so believable. It is so wonderful to read about. It's everything. But this is basically perfect. It's also very unpredictable. I really cannot tell where this is going to go, which is another reason why I love it. We kind of started and it was like, oh, okay, I'm guessing that we've met the love interest. And then I was like, oh no, maybe this is the love interest. And then we met someone else. I was like, oh no, so this must be the love interest. And now I'm like, I just don't know where it's going. And I like that. There is just a lot going on. It's quite complex, but I absolutely love that. I'm just very happy. I'm happy in this moment, but I will keep you updated. And I think I'm gonna love this. And I think that this is gonna be a new favourite of the year, to be completely honest. It's just everything that I love. So we'll see. Okay. It is the next day, and I'm thrilled to report that I just finished You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Akwaeke Emezi, and I wasn't quite prepared for that, to be honest. Was not ready for all of the emotions that this book brought onto me. Oh my god. This novel like reached into parts of me that I just didn't see coming and made me feel every emotion under the sun. Actually, do you know what? I don't think this book is hyped enough. I think that there should be more people talking about this book because, wow. The love story itself touches on what it's like to be lucky enough to fall in love again after such a huge loss, and both of them lost their partners in a really traumatic way as well, and they really feel bonded together in that. And these characters, like, they are so mature, like the transparency, the tenderness, the openness, the communication, oh my gosh, it's just unreal. It's amazing to read characters like this who are so open. So for me, the romance was stunning, beautiful, could not be improved upon, but also this book is like quite complex. It gets a little bit messy, and to be clear, there is a dad involved, which honestly is not for me. But this book really made it work. It made it really believable, and I could really see why they'd fallen in love. I just got it. I really got it. And Akwaeke Emezi made it work. So well done. There isn't really much steam, to be honest, but for me, I didn't really mind. I don't think there's anything about this book that I would really change, to be honest, because I think it works so well. It works so perfectly. Wow! And I think that Akwaeke Emezi has written just such a beautiful book. And honestly, I implore you all to read it. If you're okay with reading about grief and about the loss of a partner or the loss of a loved one, I really want everyone to read this. I think it's just such a beautiful, beautiful novel. So overall, I'm gonna give this book 5 stars. I could not think of a single thing that would improve this book. It's just perfect as it is. And I'm so glad that I read it. I am really weirdly grateful for the reading experience, even though it was quite hard. Honestly, thank you, Akwaeke Emezi. We are blessed to have your books. I might have just sat down and finished Praise by Sarah Kate. Didn't mean to do that. That was unintentional. I meant to update you and then I didn't. And I'm sorry about that. I'm not really sure how she wrote something so addictive. My thoughts overall, this book is really fun. It's super entertaining. And oh my gosh, it made me forget everything that was going on in the world. And I was just so absorbed in this book and finding out what the hell was going to happen. It's addictive. It's engaging. The characters are not my favourite, but it was super fun. This basically follows a girl called Charlie who I didn't realise gets into a situation with her ex-boyfriend's dad. There's another dad in this video. I didn't know that. I didn't realise that. Again, that's on me. My fault for choosing a book with a romance trope that is not really for me. But as we've seen earlier in the video, you can still love a book with a romance trope in it that is not really for you. So we follow Charlie. She basically gets into this situation with her ex-boyfriend's dad, who owns his own business. He basically runs a sex club, and she becomes his secretary. I've never known how to say that word. Secretary? Secretary? I'm exposing myself. Can't believe I don't know how to say that, but I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I don't know how to say it. Help me. So we basically follow Charlie as she goes on this very sexually liberating kind of adventure, and she falls in love. And not gonna lie, probably 75% of this book is just pure sex. I thought the steamy scenes were good. They're not my favourite. I also think there's possibly a little bit too much steam, to the point it almost kind of does a disservice to the characters, because you don't really feel like you're getting to know them that much, because you're only really getting to know them in the context of their sexuality rather than them as people. Time fucking flew when I was reading it. I cannot believe I read it. Again, I read a book in one sitting. What's that about? I don't really do that very much, so that's something. I really like that part of the book that is so heavily focused on basically sexual liberation and freedom and expressing yourself in a safe way. That was really cool, and I didn't really see that coming. So that was great. When it came to the characters, I didn't really feel like I got to know them very well. I feel like it was very surface level, and their love story, again, was very surface level, and I never truly understood why it was they were falling in love with each other. It was just they're both super hot and they're both super attracted to each other and they have great sex, and that's kind of it. Also, I have to say there's quite a few points where Charlie keeps pointing out that Emerson is old enough to be her dad. It's kind of a thing, and it keeps being pointed out, and it's what's that about? Or why do you keep saying this? Why? What's the point? It makes me no. Exhibit A. I keep forgetting he's old enough to be my dad, especially when he looks that good. What do you mean? I just don't like it. It's not for me. But overall, I did have fun reading this. I think this is a really good romance to start if you are kind of looking into something that's a little bit less vanilla than your classic steamy scenes. This is a fun one to branch into, but it's a little bit kinky. It is fun, and I would generally recommend it with all of those things in mind that I just said. I think I'm gonna give this a 3.5 out of 5. I'm tempted to give it a 3, but for some reason I am leaning towards a 3.5 because it was just so engaging. so entertaining, so fun. So I've just realised that my rainbow light has been on me this whole time, and I hope that I haven't had an annoying light on my face. It's probably why I can barely see anything. Good news, I have started The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochrane. Bad news, I look like this. I'm currently on 65% of this. Unintentional, meant to update you sooner, but what can I say? I was just having a great time, I was speeding through it. So The Charm Offensive, we're following Dev and Charlie. Charlie is essentially the Bachelor. He's on a show called Ever After, where he's dating lots of women and he chooses one who he wants to get engaged to, I think. Something along those lines. It's basically The Bachelor. That's where we are. And Dev is his handler, so he's essentially with him all the time. He's like his coach kind of thing. I, up until like 25% of the way through, really was not sure about this. I was just not feeling it. It felt quite slow. I didn't really feel like I'd learned that much about Charlie in particular. I was just like, sure, he doesn't like germs. I get it. What else is there to him? But then around like 25%, 30% of the way through, something just switched. And oh my gosh, it switched real good because I love this book. I love it. Something about the pacing, something about their chemistry really just started to work, and like, oh my gosh, I love them. I love them. They are little marshmallows and I just want them to be happy. I am so glad that I'm reading this. I'm so glad that it exists. I think this is hyped for a reason, 100%. I'm also just really enjoying like the reality show aspect. I find it really fascinating and really fun seeing like the behind the scenes stuff and how the producers work. I know that it's all like fiction and that's probably not what happens behind the scenes, but I feel like it's interesting to see anyway. So those are my thoughts. 65% of the way through, and I'm going to update you when I finish it. Thank you to this book for existing. I love you. Okay, let's talk about The Charm Offensive. So I finished it last night and boy oh boy did I have a good time. Oh my gosh, this book is so wholesome. I really enjoyed this book. I think Charlie and Dev as a couple were absolutely perfect. So sweet, such different characters from each other, but both so incredibly likeable, lovable. They are the purest of human beings and they deserve the best. I love them. So to talk about the positives of this book, I really enjoyed all of the discussion about mental health. There is a lot in there. So it discusses depression, anxiety, OCD and panic attacks. And it really goes into it. I really liked that the author was like really not afraid to go there. Like it's not just a little side plot of like, oh yeah, I struggle with depression. It's like quite a big aspect of the book, which is realistic because it really affects relationships in a very real way. And I really like that the author wasn't afraid to kind of go into that. I also enjoyed the discussion about therapy in there and taking your own time to heal and try to get better, and that you're not going to find kind of recovery and managing mental health within another person and through a relationship. You have to do that work yourself, with the aid and help of others around you, but really a lot of the work is going to have to be done by you and, you know, a therapist if you have access to one. My big criticism, unfortunately, does come with the third act. A lot of people are talking nowadays about like the third act breakup kind of trope, and like I am just one of those people who is really tired of it. I think if it's done well and if it's really believable, then I don't really mind, but like it felt quite forced here and I just really didn't believe it. Like from everything that we learned about these characters, I was like, I don't believe that this would happen and that that character would do that. Like at the end of the day, I just don't buy it. It is a shame when that happens, but at the same time, I understand why she did that and why she made those decisions. So I understand. Just didn't completely work for me, which is totally fair enough. I still love this book. I think it's a really delightful time. The sun has just started shining because it knows how amazing this book is. Thank you. So this is a 4-star book for me. Would have been higher if it weren't for the third act thing, but overall I really, really enjoyed it and super glad that I read it. That leads me on to a bonus book in this video that I wasn't planning to read. So here we go. So the last book in this video that I wasn't expecting to include, but I ended up reading it when I was concussed. So I literally lied on the sofa for 2 days and listened to the entirety of Icebreaker, and oh my gosh, it's so good. So it's dual POV. We're following Anastasia, who is an ice skater, and we're following Nate, who is an ice hockey player, and it's such a fun time. Oh my gosh, I loved this book. It is pure joy. When I want to pick up like a new adult, college setting, kind of enemies to lovers, really good, quick, witty dialogue, this is like exactly the kind of thing that I'm looking for. It's so for me. Their chemistry was sizzling because the dialogue was so good. They had such a good back and forth that I just really enjoyed reading. Highlights include the dual POV, I thought worked really well. The steam was great. There's also a lot of it if that's what you're kind of looking for. Really good stuff. Also really liked the discussions and like openness about consent. And also therapy. Again, therapy kind of turns up in this book in a big way. And I'm so glad about it. It was just so wholesome while at the same time being really fit. And that's not easy to do. I think that takes a lot of skill. So I love this book. I think I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5. It also made me care about ice-based sports, which I didn't see coming, to be totally honest. And a really good audiobook. I think the readers were great. Highly recommend it. Also, many thanks to this book for just keeping me sane while I was concussed. I was so miserable. And I think this book saved me from going insane because obviously you can't look at screens and I wasn't working and I didn't want to physically read either because I had such a bad headache. So this audiobook saved my life. Thank you. Just to finish this video off, I'm going to do a little rapid ranking of all the books that I read for it because it just makes sense in my heart. So at the very bottom, I'm actually going to put praise. I know that I said it was a 3.5, but I think actually upon reflection, it's more of a solid 3-star. I think I was just a little bit shocked by like how rapidly I sped through it, but it's a solid 3-star book. Like, that's my thoughts now. Then of course, I'm gonna put A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J Maas. Not surprising, no one's shocked. Then I would put Love on the Brain. I'm still tempted to check out The Love Hypothesis. If you think The Love Hypothesis is better, please let me know. I'd be very curious to hear your thoughts. And then we have the top 3, which would be number 3, The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochrane, which is a solid 4-star. Love this book. My heart belongs to it. Then of course, Icebreaker by Hannah Grace, which is a 4.5. Totally love this book. I'm besotted with it. So grateful for the reading experience and it's saving my life. Thank you. And then my favourite book for this video, which was You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Kweke Emezi. Perfect book. Wouldn't change a thing about it. I've actually, since filming my kind of reading experience, read a lot of reviews and seen so much negativity about it, which is very interesting. And I can totally see people's perspective on it. They think that all the characters are like really bad people. And I completely see their point of view, but it really doesn't change my opinion. I still think that while the characters are flawed, they're really likeable and I love them and I root for them deeply. I just love that book. I think it's so special. I think the idea of finding love again after losing the love of your life is like such a precious thing and I support it fully. I love that book and it stays at the top. So that, my friends, wraps up this video that I have been working on for approximately half my life, it feels like, because of my injury, chinjury. I'm just going to keep speaking through the car alarm. I want to thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it here to the end. I hugely appreciate it. Please let me know if you've read these books and if you disagree with any of my opinions. I would love to know, but that is it for now, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye. Oh, my chin hurts. Oh.